Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of Stacking the Box. I am back after missing last week's show. Sterling, how are you doing today?
I've missed you. I've really
I've
missed
missed
you.
you. I've missed you as well.
Yeah. No, I'm doing well, man. It's a great day here in Kansas City. NFL is in full swing. We're starting to really get a feel for which teams are real, which teams are pretenders, and which teams are in between, just like your Atlanta Falcons. I do see you missed the week after the Falcons choked away a game and decided to come back after they were able to win on a walk-off field goal. I see how you operate, Iain.
Yeah, I don't know if Falcons are middle of the pack. Some would say they're currently sitting in a playoff spot. I
Some
don't
say.
think playoff teams are middle of the pack.
In the NFC, you are.
Well, maybe we'll get into that a little bit later. But yeah, we have a stack show today. Obviously, going to talk biggest winners and losers from week 5. Can't believe week 5 has already been completed. We're going to talk some injuries, a million injuries this week. Some ones that absolutely suck, especially for people who play fantasy football, like yours truly. We're going to talk about the 49ers. We see Niner noise in the chat already. Yeah, are the 49ers the best team in the NFL? They just might be. And then we got a bunch of other topics like who's actually the worst team in the NFL, which is something else we're going to talk about. And then, of course, we're going to preview week 6. It is officially spooky season. I have my spooky sweater on. Goosebumps. Sterling, did you read Goosebumps growing up?
Oh, dude, I loved Goosebumps. But those little shows, you know how they had like the little, was it a TV show? It was on
Yeah, I think it's a
VHS
TV
or
show.
something
Yeah.
like that. All I remember was it terrified me when I was just a little tyke. Like I'm a little tyke over here at like 9 p.m. probably, because let's be real, I'm not staying up till midnight back then. And I'm just sitting here freaked out in my bunk bed like, oh my gosh, this is mortifying.
Yes.
I love
I
it.
didn't watch the shows. I did. I am aware of them. I did read a ton of the books. But before we get into the show here, of course, football fans, sign up for DraftKings because they are running a new promotion that you won't want to miss. New users can place a $5 bet to instantly claim $200 in bonus bets. You'll also be rewarded with a separate no-sweat single-game parlay every single day when you opt in. All you have to do is sign up with the code STB. That is code STB. It stands for Stacking the Box. Not only would this get you these great bonuses, but it also supports our podcast. If you've been considering signing up for DraftKings, make sure you use the code STB to maximize your first bets and parlays. This offer is only available to new customers who are 21 plus and physically present in legal gambling states. Please remember to always gamble responsibly. Check the episode description for the full terms of the offer. All right, let's get into it.
If
Let's
I
start.
didn't have a DraftKings account, I would have totally signed up for that deal.
Yeah, I was
Totally would have signed up for that deal.
That was pretty convincing. Let's get into how we always start with our show. Biggest winners and losers from week 5. Sterling, do you want to go ahead with your biggest winner?
Nathaniel Hackett. Come
Yes.
on now. Just after, a couple weeks ago, the new head coach of your former team out here saying one of the worst coaching jobs they have ever seen in the entire NFL. You get a chance as the OC of your team now, going against him. You don't have Aaron Rodgers. You have Zach Wilson. And you put a 31 spot up on his dome. You come away with the victory. Everyone's laughing and just making fun of the guy who took your job. Oh, come on. This is incredible. I'm all in here on Nathaniel Hackett. Hey, Sean Payton, stay humble. I mean, what a brutal performance all season long by Sean Payton. But this is just a culmination of all the offseason cockiness coming back and finally getting him.
Yeah, I like that quite a bit. I was on the Jets as well in that game, so I was happy with that. My biggest winner of 2 biggest winners. Number 1 is hockey fans, because hockey is back. I know this is a football show, but the NHL regular season starts tonight. So biggest winner of the week is hockey fans, because the sport finally returns tonight. I'm very excited for it. But the true real winner is Desmond Ridder and the Falcons. Just 1 week after everyone dismissed them, people were calling Desmond Ridder the worst quarterback in the entire NFL. What do? They come out and have their best performance that they've had all season. Let me read Desmond Ridder's stat line for you really quick, Sterling. Some would say one of the better stat lines in the entire NFL this week. 28 completions on 37 attempts, 329 yards, and a touchdown. Kyle Pitts had 7 receptions. Drake London had 6 receptions. Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier split work in the backfield. Texans are lucky this was only a 21-19 game. It could have been a 40-19 game the way the Falcons offense was going. The Falcons once again look like a real playoff contender.
Yeah, 40 points if it was a 3-game sample size. They scored 21 points.
Yeah,
It took a game-winning. That is the best the offense has looked. A game-winning field goal against the Houston Texans to score 21. My goodness, Ian.
they had some ill-time. They had a couple ill-timed fumbles. They don't fumble those 2 times. That's 2 touchdown drives right there. That's 14 plus 21. Sorry, 35-19 would have been the
Oh,
final.
yeah, if they don't. But guess what? They did. Congratulations. I'm sure that the Bills fans, when they went to 4 straight Super Bowls and lost all 4, have a whole bunch of, well, if this would have happened, they would have been the NFL champions, Super Bowl Lombardi champions. Guess what? Didn't happen, Ian.
The Falcons are back. Go ahead with your biggest loser of the week.
Fantasy football and injuries in general. Man, this is brutal. Justin Jefferson, Devon Achane. We'll get into all the injuries just in general, but this is, and maybe we say this every single year, but I can't remember another year where this many major injuries to key players has happened. There's been this whole turf versus grass debate. Now, it seems like all the players want grass, obviously, but injuries are still happening on grass. It's been a bad season for injuries. You're seeing quarterbacks like Anthony Richardson go down. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers week 1. You're seeing running backs, Devon Achane, Saquon Barkley missing games. You're seeing wide receivers, top end wide receivers. You're seeing Justin Jefferson. Devontae Adams has been banged up. You're seeing T. Higgins miss games. I mean, just look around the league right now. It is littered with incredible talent of players getting hurt. That, to me, is the biggest loser. What about you?
Yeah, 2 biggest losers. Number 1 is Maple Leafs fans. I talked about hockey earlier, myself being a Maple Leafs fan. Yeah, hockey is back, but we're going to see the same thing that we've seen every year, which is we're going to have a great regular season and lose in the playoffs. So I'm already sad with the Maple Leafs. But the other biggest loser is actually, some would say, and it kind of pains me to say this, but I think it's actually true, the NFL version of the Maple Leafs, which is the Dallas Cowboys. They suck. They were number 1 in my fraud power rankings the past 2 weeks. I predicted word for word that they're in for a rude awakening when they play an actual good team in the 49ers on Sunday night. And what, they lose 42-10? The Cowboys might not even be a good team at all. But we are going to talk about the Cowboys a little bit later, because there are some question marks surrounding that franchise right now. All right, let's do. You brought up injuries being the biggest loser of the week. I agree. Sterling, why don't you run through some of the major injuries that happened in week 5?
Justin Jefferson is now placed on the IR with that hamstring injury, going to miss at least 4 games. Obviously, the Vikings are sitting there at 1-4. Last year, the Vikings won every close game. This year, they've lost every close game. There's been a lot of discontent in regards to what's going to happen going forward with Kirk Cousins. Jefferson wants to know who the quarterback's going to be moving forward. We don't know. We don't know, and this is a frustrating situation for Vikings fans because, again, I still think they are a talented team, but now I have no idea if they're going to be sellers at the deadline. Devon Achane, the running back for Miami, possibly going to be placed on the IR. Not great. He is absolutely electric with the ball in his hands. So incredibly talented. Anthony Richardson is going to miss extended time. We don't know 100% yet what it's going to be. As a fantasy football owner, not great. And as a fan of watching him play football, also sucks. Looks like it could be an AC sprain joint in his shoulder. Did not look good. I know a lot of people originally thought it might be out for the year when it originally happened. Now they're pumping the brakes a little bit, maybe even missing IR, which would be great for Anthony and the Colts. But again, not going to play this upcoming week. New York Jets right tackle Elijah Vera Tucker. He's been the best, most versatile offensive lineman for the Jets. Already a bad offensive line. Now gets worse as he's going to be out for the rest of the season after tearing an Achilles tendon. And then Dallas Cowboys linebacker Leighton Vander Esch could miss 4 to 6 weeks because of a neck strain that he suffered in last night's loss.
Yeah, the one that I think hurts me the most is Achane, just because whenever there's like a new rookie that explodes onto the scene, it's like, oh, nice. Like now this guy's going to be like a name that we get to watch every week in the NFL. And you're excited to see, you know, how good he can look throughout a full season. And then it just kind of ends quickly. Now, I think he's going to come back at some point this season. But still, to me, when rookies get hurt, I guess the same thing could be said with Anthony Richardson. When rookies get hurt, I feel like it stings a little bit extra because I want to see what these players can do in the NFL for a full season.
Especially the Colts. I mean, that is your franchise quarterback. You went all in. You're having a really nice season. I will say, shout out to Gardner Minshew. Minshew has perpetually been a guy who stays ready. Very, very solid backup. Incredible mustache. Gardner is a great backup for the Colts. I will say with Anthony Richardson, since I said the biggest loser was fantasy football and injuries, I'll also throw myself into the biggest loser conversation again here, Ian. I had Lamar Jackson and Anthony Richardson. You know who said, you know what? I'm going all in on Richardson. Let me trade Lamar Jackson for Amon-Ra St. Brown. This idiot. So you know what happened? Amon-Ra St. Brown was out last week.
Yep, he's hurt.
And now Anthony Richardson might be missing some games. So I'm a dumbass, Ian.
Yeah, you wish you could take that one back.
Yeah, surprisingly, I texted him and he said, no, thank you.
Yeah. I will say, though, I actually think in the short term, the Colts actually might be better with Gardner Minshew. I think today Gardner Minshew is a better quarterback. Now, if Anthony Richardson would get better the more he plays, so for the long term, playing Anthony Richardson would be smart. But I think like this week, like their game against the Jaguars, I think they have a better chance with Gardner Minshew than Anthony Richardson. And there's some numbers, like if you look at EPA per dropback and some advanced numbers, so far this season, Gardner Minshew has done better when he's been under center than Anthony Richardson.
It's a revenge game.
It is a revenge game. That is true. That is true. All right, top story. Are the San Francisco 49ers the best team in the NFL? 5-0, just destroyed the Cowboys 42-0. Sterling, 49ers, best team in the NFL, or are you still sticking with your Chiefs, who have a loss?
It's Chiefs. I mean, it's not Chiefs. I'm kidding. It's 49ers, man. Okay. It's not even close. It's 49ers by a long shot. Like, it's the 49ers clear-cut best team in the NFL. I think the Eagles might have a pretty good conversation for a second. I think you can go the Eagles, the Chiefs. If you want to throw the Bills, the Dolphins, maybe the Lions in that secondary category, you can. But it's the Niners by themselves at the top. Their only close game was week 1 against the Rams? Was that the close game?
They played the Steelers in week 1. I think it was week 2, I think, the Rams. And still, that was
a touchdown
win.
Yeah, it was 7-point
win.
Yeah. I mean, you're looking at what this team is doing. It's Shanahan. It's the offensive scheme. And, oh, by the way, I think Brock Purdy is just really solid. Like, I don't know if Brock Purdy is Mahomes, Josh Allen, Herbert. I don't think he has that sort of talent, but they don't need him to be that. The same way I say Miami's rolling with Tua Tagovailoa down there, with Mike McDaniels and just the scheme. Brock Purdy and Shanahan are a perfect match. He is so smart, gets the ball out quick. For everything that Jordan Love talent-wise is and Brock Purdy isn't, the mental capacity has also changed as well. Jordan Love makes some dumbass throws. Have you seen Brock Purdy make any horrendous throws this year? No. He processes so quickly. He hits the open receiver. Man, I am so impressed with what the San Francisco 49ers are doing. They are rolling on all cylinders.
According to the advanced numbers, and I know I like to bring up advanced numbers quite a bit, but Brock Purdy has been the best quarterback in the NFL this season. I wish I could share my screen right now, but there's a website, rbsdm.com. Takes EPA per play and completion percentage above expected, and it's Brock Purdy and then everyone else. And I talked to Ryan Fitzpatrick last week. I think if you listen to the audio version of this podcast last week, when I wasn't on, I think we heard the Ryan Fitzpatrick interview at the end of it. If you haven't watched it, go watch it after the show on Stack in the Box YouTube page. But he called Brock Purdy a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. Even last week, it was like top 5. But after how he looked on against the Cowboys, which is supposed to be, one of the better defenses in the NFL, sure, he might not be number 1. He's not Patrick Mahomes just quite yet, but does he squeak into the top 5, Sterling, for you?
It's so difficult because I think if you just see the raw talent, and that's what's so hard for me, and I think for fans to understand, you see the raw talent of Brock Purdy. Nothing jumps off at you. Arm strength isn't crazy. Accuracy is fine. It's pretty good. But it's the processing. And how do you justify processing as far as talent level, right? Like, again, right. Jordan Love, to me, has crazy arm strength. But the processing. Josh Allen is incredibly talented even. But sometimes Josh Allen's processing isn't the best in the NFL. So it just comes down to how do you judge that and throw that into the overall talent level discussion. It's a good one to have. I mean, right now, he is the perfect guy for the San Francisco 49ers. That's what it comes down to. I hate when people just say, oh, it's all scheme. Scheme's a big part, don't get me wrong. But you can't just put any quarterback into what the 49ers are doing and have the exact same success. Some guys get greedy. Some guys try to extend plays too much. Some guys try and do too much. Brock Purdy takes what is given to him, and he does a great job doing it. That, to me, is what makes him so impressive. He doesn't get flustered.
Is there any chance you said in the offseason that you could put any quarterback in the system and have the same success? Do I have it? Is that a false memory I have or no?
No, it's true. I said that. I say you've had success with Nick Mullins back there at one point. Now, it wasn't extended success. I understand that. Point is, the scheme and what Shanahan does is so incredibly impressive. But we've not seen this, right? We have not seen this. This is next level. If he was doing what Jimmy G was doing, I would say, yeah, it's any quarterback.
Sure.
He is far and away outproducing what Jimmy G did. You see what Garoppolo's done with the Raiders. It's not been pretty. Again, smaller sample size. He is still perpetually banged up. But Brock Purdy took what they were doing to the next level. That, to me, is what's so impressive.
Just to refer to this website once again, which is rbsdm.com. Check it out if you like advanced analytics. But they have their quarterback rankings based on their stat that's called EPA plus CPOE composite. I'm not going to get into what that exactly is, but the top 5: Brock Purdy number 1, Josh Allen number 2, Tua Tagovailoa number 3, Patrick Mahomes number 4. Sterling, guess who their 5th ranked quarterback is through the first 5 weeks?
Because you brought it up, I'm going to go ahead and say Desmond Ridder for some reason.
No. He's actually ranked extremely. He's 30th on this list.
Yeah.
So, I'm just going to pretend I'm not seeing Desmond Ridder on this list. They just forgot to put him on.
Well, you can hardly see him anyways because he's so far down. Got to scroll a couple pages. But that's a good question.
It's a surprising one.
Lamar Jackson?
It is not Lamar Jackson. It is Baker Mayfield.
Huh. Yeah.
Number 5th behind Purdy, Josh Allen, Tua, and Patrick Mahomes, according to this one specific advanced number. But it does show that Baker Mayfield's having a pretty solid year.
But again, there's some good quarterbacks on that list. It's not something ridiculous.
Right.
No, Brock Purdy needs more credit. As you mentioned, Ryan Fitzpatrick, that conversation you had with him. Again, listen to it after this episode here. But it's true. I just think it's so hard for people to understand. There's so much that goes into quarterback outside of just strictly athleticism and strictly talent, arm strength. There's so many different mental parts of the game. I think it's what made Tom Brady so great as well. I mean, you look at Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady. Rodgers is more, quote unquote, talented, right?
Right.
There's no denying the mobility, arm strength. But he doesn't have the success because Tom Brady was so good, between the ears. Brock Purdy seemingly has, I'm not trying to compare to Tom Brady just yet by any means, but just between the ears, he is so good at processing, and that's what stands out to me, especially at such a young age.
Yes. Is it too early to ask the question if the 49ers can go 17-0?
Yes.
I'm looking at their schedule right now. There's only one game that they might not be favored in, and that's December 3rd. They go to Philadelphia to take on the Eagles. They're probably not going to be favored in that game. But other than that, they're going to be almost every single game is a very, very, very winnable game.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And again, I think the 49ers are clear-cut the best team in the NFL. But again, I always say any given Sunday at Cleveland, at Minnesota, who without Justin Jefferson, who knows, but still a decent offense. They play the Bengals. The Bengals look like they're starting to get right a little bit as far as getting the ball to Jamar Chase. Again, win against him in fantasy football, not ideal. At Jacksonville, Tampa Bay's been solid. Seattle's been solid. Philly, obviously, at Philadelphia. Seattle again. Baltimore. It's not a horrendously difficult schedule, but there's a lot of solid teams in there.
Yes.
I would expect a slip up somewhere. That's just how the NFL goes when you have a 17-game season.
They are now officially the favorites to win the Super Bowl, around plus 470 to win the Super Bowl. Their updated win total is also at 13.5. So odds makers expect them to go either 13-4 or 14-3. So that's probably going to be good enough for the number 1 seed in the NFC as well. Obviously, that game against the Eagles on December 3rd is a big one.
Yeah. Because Eagles haven't played great, but they're 5-0. Like, that's what's so interesting with Philly is it seems like they're not clicking, which you can make the case that is that more scary, or is that a case of they've gotten lucky and just won close games? I think because San Fran's pretty much blown every single team out. Are they peaking too early would be the only possible question here.
Yeah, average scoring margin right now, plus 19.8. Not bad. All right, let's get on to some other topics. I'm going to switch up the order here because this kind of means more fitting. We just talked about whether or not the 49ers are the best team in the NFL, and we both seem to agree. But who is the worst team in the NFL?
Panthers. Come on now. It's not even close. It's the Panthers. They're 0-5. Don't get me wrong, Adam Thielen's been great. But that's their wide receiver one, and that's it. They traded for, or they brought in a running back in Miles Sanders. Yeah, that's going to move the needle. They're bad, man. You heard Frank Reich today was talking about how the owner's a little hands-on. There's some rumblings that maybe the owner was the guy who wanted Bryce Young. Not saying that they wouldn't have gotten Bryce Young either way, but you look at C.J. Stroud, you look at the smaller sample size of Anthony Richardson, you're telling me those guys don't look better than Bryce Young? And I said it here. I said, I'm a C.J. Stroud guy. I think C.J. Stroud was the best quarterback coming out of college. Bryce Young has been okay, but okay is not good enough when you're drafting 1-1. The Panthers, to me, are by far the worst team in the NFL.
I disagree. I think it's the Giants. I know the Giants have a win that week 2 or week 3 game against the Cardinals where they came back in the second half. But statistically, this Giants team stinks out loud. The stat that I always point to, net yards per play, which is the average yards gained per play on offense, subtract the average yards given up per play on defense. Giants dead last in the NFL with a net yards per play of minus 2.3. The next worst team is minus 1.4. So that is almost a full yard worse than the next worst team in the NFL when you look at net yards per play.
If you want to look at the Panthers?
No, it's actually the Bengals.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'm not high on the Bengals, even though they've won 2 games either. If you want to look at advanced numbers like EPA per play, offensively, they're 31st in EPA per play. Defensively, they're 30th in opponent EPA per play. So advanced numbers, yards per play numbers, everything points towards them being, in my opinion, the worst team in the NFL. I know they have a win, but still, I think the Giants they're bad to watch. It's just bad football.
They've been very, very bad. I'm with you. And they've only had one good half all season long. But surprisingly, one good half is still better than what the Panthers have done. What I came down to is if I match each of these teams against each other on a neutral field, who am I taking? And
I take the Giants over the Panthers?
I would take the Giants or the Panthers in a heartbeat. It wouldn't even be close, man. Honestly, it wouldn't be close.
Wow. I don't think I would do that. I think I would. Yeah, I'd take the Panthers. I don't think I'd set the Giants as favorites against anyone.
I know it's crazy because I'm not a big running back guy, but let's be real now. The Giants have gone around Saquon. He's also missed some time. He's been a little banged up. He's supposed to come back this week, hopefully. Can we at least put that into perspective here? The Giants have been without their best player, the most at least impactful player, dynamic player offensively. He's coming back now. Let's be real. That does make a difference.
Yeah, sure. But how much of a difference could he make behind what might be the worst offensive line in NFL history?
Yeah, sure. I mean, that offensive line is...
Their offensive line is... They're not even there. They're literally pylons.
Have they thought about just running screen passes the entire time? Because that's basically what the offensive line game plan has been, is let these dudes go through.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what they can do. It's ugly though. Do the Cowboys need to move on from Dak Prescott? What are your feelings about the Cowboys in general? Because they kind of seem to be in the same spot that they're in every single football season since they've had Dak Prescott, where they're a good but not great team. They'll be in the playoffs. They'll win one game at most, and then they'll be eliminated. What's the answer to fix this Cowboys team? Do you got to move on from Dak Prescott? Do you need a different coach? Is it just stick to the game plan and hope for the best and things will turn around? What's your thoughts about the Cowboys in general?
I mean, is it Dak Prescott? Because the same thing kind of happened with Tony Romo, too. Pretty much ever since Troy Aikman. And it wasn't like Troy Aikman, I get it, he's the NFL Hall of Fame quarterback. He admits it, too. You know, a lot of the offense was turn around, hand it to Emmitt Smith. I mean, that was a big chunk of what they did. That offensive line, that whole team was so good. That doesn't work in today's NFL. You have to be a really good quarterback for the most part to even have a chance of winning a Super Bowl. Dak Prescott, to me, is a little bit like Kirk Cousins, right? They're very similar. They'll have some big numbers, good in the regular season, and it never seems like they are good enough in the big games.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what the Cowboys do, though, because if you move on from Dak, which you can make a case that you should, because he's not going to probably win you the big game. But let's say you move on from Dak. What do? You don't have a high enough draft pick to go out and get a guy.
Right.
You're almost stuck in quarterback purgatory. You're hoping that you find a guy at pick, 18, 19, who falls to you that somehow everyone else misscouted. Like, it's not a good spot to be in. The Chiefs were in that for a long time. So I know firsthand, Alex Smith, there's way worse spots to be in than Alex Smith. But eventually you had to take the gamble, and the Chiefs did get lucky with Mahomes falling to them where he did. But if you move on, then you're stuck winning, 3 games a year? 4 games a year? I see why you hang on to Dak and why you hang on to Mike McCarthy. Even the process has not worked well for the Philadelphia 76ers, and they were the ones that kind of coined this entire tank situation.
I think Mike McCarthy is number one. If you brought up a good point, we saw the same thing in the Tony Romo days. Well, what's been the constant for the Cowboys over the past 2 decades? It's a lack of a good head coach. Who was their last good head coach? It was Mike McCarthy, Jason Garrett. Who was before him? I don't know why I'm blanking. Wade Phillips was there for a few years.
But Wade Phillips is a pretty good. Well, I mean,
he was a decent defensive coordinator, but he's not a head coach guy. He's not a guy who has a killer instinct, and that's kind of been the theme of all these head coaches. Same with quarterbacks, same with Dak Prescott. He just doesn't have a killer instinct. The Cowboys actually, like I brought up before, kind of reminds me of the Toronto Maple Leafs. All the talent in the world on the roster, but you have a bad head coach and just no killer instinct and no heart in big games, and that's what the Dallas Cowboys are. So, first and foremost, I think they got to get a new head coach. Jerry Jones needs to swallow his pride. Stop firing Smith.
Well, because that's my point. Is I don't think Mike McCarthy is a bad head coach. I think he's fine. Okay, I think he's fine.
Fine's not going to get it done, though.
I get you. I'm not disagreeing, but my point is, when everyone always says, "Well, fire this guy," who are you going to bring in? And that's always what I want to bring up, because same thing with Dak Prescott. I don't think he's good. I think he's just a guy. I think he's slightly above average. I don't think he's even quite as good as Kirk Cousins, in my personal opinion. I think if it was a 1-game sample size, who do I want? I'm probably taking Kirk. The point is, though, who are you going to take instead of Dak? And then who are you going to have instead of Mike McCarthy? Because you have to have an answer.
So I agree more when you talk about quarterbacks, because that's right. There's a very, very small handful of actually good elite quarterbacks. So I do agree with that. Head coaches, you can find a better head coach than Mike McCarthy. Put Dan Quinn as head coach. Dan Quinn's at least coached a team to as well. I know Mike McCarthy's won a Super Bowl, but Dan Quinn has coached the Falcons to the Super Bowl that one year before he blew in the biggest blown lead of all time.
So you want a guy blown Super Bowl,
but Dan Quinn is a player's head coach. The guys like him. He has that killer instinct. And I mean, I'm not going to pretend like I have a list of the best coaching candidates in front of me, but before Mike McDaniel was hired as the Dolphins head coach, and anyone were many people looking at him as a good candidate? No, but he came out of here. Now he's coaching one of the greatest offenses of all time. There's got to be better options out there than Mike McCarthy. I agree with you about the quarterback. Probably not a lot of better available options than Dak Prescott, but when it comes to head coach, there has to be better options than Mike McCarthy. There has to be.
Well, Sean Payton's probably going to be looking for a job in a couple games.
Well, Sean Payton stinks, too.
All right, Ian, let's get into the predicting the wild card teams in each conference. Let's start with the NFC, okay? Since we're right here in the NFC, who do you have wild card wise here?
I have speaking of the Dallas Cowboys, I have them not making the playoffs.
That's wild
how much.
To me.
That's how bad of a taste in my mouth I have after watching the Cowboys last week. Seahawks, Saints, and Vikings. I think the Vikings are going to go on a run here. I know they're 1-4, but the second half of their schedule is extremely easy. Now, Justin Jefferson being out certainly doesn't help them, but they still have talented, receivers that Kirk Cousins can throw the ball to. They got Bears this week. I expect that to be a win. 49ers, that's going to be a tough one. But then after that, the schedule opens up. Packers, Falcons, Saints, Broncos, Bears, Raiders, Bengals, Lions, Pack. Like there's a lot of winnable games in the second half of their season. I think the Vikings can still go on a run and make the playoffs. And then the Saints, because the Falcons are going to win the division, Saints get wild card, and the Seahawks are my 3 NFC wildcard teams right now.
Okay. No. Cowboys are making it. Don't your knee jerked so much I saw it hit the ceiling, my guy. I mean, that was brutal. I get the Cowboys leave a bad taste in your mouth. I'm not saying they're a great team. You don't need to be a great team to make the playoffs, especially in the NFC. They're going to win 9-10 games easy. They'll at least win 10 games. Cowboys are making the playoffs.
All right.
I have the Saints making the playoffs as the wild card team. I think Tampa Bay holds on and they do the thing. Yeah, dude, I get it. It feels gross. It feels disgusting to say. It feels disgusting. But I think it's going to be Tampa Bay winning that division with the Saints as a wild card team. And then I have the Seahawks. I wanted to go Vikings with you. I keep saying they're a good team that's just getting unlucky. But you lose Justin Jefferson for at least 4 games. I think there's a decent chance they start selling. I think that they're going to miss the playoffs. So it came down to Seahawks and Rams for me. I think the Rams just missed. I do think they've been a little bit more impressive than we originally thought going into this year. The Rams, obviously with Puka Nacua, we had no idea. But now Cooper Kupp's back. Both guys are getting involved. The emergence of Tutu Atwell. I still like Tyler Higbee to an extent. I like that team more so than I originally did. But they don't have it. They don't have enough, in my opinion, to make the playoffs over the Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah, I like the Rams. Their defense is an issue though, and I think that's going to hold them back. So, all right. I could not disagree more about the Buccaneers. I think they're fooling people into thinking they're actually a good team.
Yeah, I've been fooled. I've been bamboozled, but at the same time, until they prove me otherwise, in a bad NFC South, I think they have the inside edge.
All right, we will see. AFC.
AFC, I have the Bills because I think the Dolphins do hold on and win that one. I went back and forth, but the Bills' schedule is tougher than Miami's. I think the Bengals find a way to sneak into the playoffs. I think the Steelers start to fade. I know right now the Steelers are leading, but I don't see him making the playoffs in my opinion. So I think I have the Ravens winning that division. That means the Bengals, they start getting right. They are a wild card team. And then I went back and forth on this one. The Chargers.
Yeah.
I think they find a way to sneak in.
Yeah, I agree. So I agree with you on both Bills and Chargers. So I'm guessing you have the Dolphins winning the AFC East.
Yes, correct.
I don't agree with the Bengals, though. Even though they've won 2 games, their numbers don't look good. I mean, it's possible. But I'm going to actually say the Colts in a division that we thought could have been the worst division in football, the AFC South. I actually like the Colts, even with Anthony Richardson out. I think Gardner Minshew can lead them to a few wins here. Still a relatively easy schedule for the Colts. And actually, when you actually look at the wild card picture in the AFC, even though like we were talking preseason about how the AFC was supposed to be like one of the best conferences in recent memory, there's not like a lot of teams in the wild card picture that like I love right now.
Well, Bengals, the Jets really fell.
Right.
The Jets fell and the Bengals have struggled. But I think the Bengals get right.
Okay. Well, we agree on the Bills and Chargers at least. What team is the biggest pleasant surprise for you at this point in the season?
The Texans. Texans sitting 2-3, easily could be 3-2 before they give up a game-winning field goal to your Atlanta Falcons. But CJ Stroud looks good. The receivers are solid. Nico Collins has been a nice emergence for them. Tank Dell's been great. He obviously left with a concussion in that game. We'll see his availability going forward. I like when they went out and brought in Dalton Schultz. The offensive line's been pretty solid. CJ Stroud, again, my favorite quarterback coming in the draft. He's looked the part. Again, I don't think they're a good team necessarily, but through 5 games, their point differential's plus 15. They're not a bad team either. they've impressed me a ton to start the year.
Yeah, you did call it preseason. You were pretty high on the Texans heading in the season. We were just talking about AFC wildcard teams. Would you be shocked if the Texans sneak in?
I would be shocked, but I don't think it's a complete non-starter.
Right.
I would still be shocked. Let's be real now. I would still be shocked, but I don't think it's as asinine a question to ask now as before the season. You would have been laughed off the mic,
Yeah.
and now you actually have to have a legitimate, semi-serious conversation about it.
Yeah. CJ Stroud now the betting favorite to win Rookie of the Year as well, worth noting. My pleasant surprise team is the Seahawks, which probably isn't a big surprise for most people, but I was very low on the Seahawks heading in this year. I thought they were going to take a huge step back, and they've actually been a pretty solid team. And like I just said earlier, I'm predicting them to be an NFC wildcard team as well. Geno Smith, still not quite playing as good as he was the first half of last season, where he was like a borderline MVP candidate, but still a very good, competent quarterback. They've had a lot of success with their run game as well. Their defense has done a great job stopping the run. I actually think the best run defense in the NFL so far this year. So the Seahawks, pleasant surprise for me so far this season. Probably not super surprising for a lot of people, but surprising to me.
I will agree with you, though, man. You and I were on the same page. We looked at what Geno did second half of last year, and you're sitting here going, maybe that contract might have been a little premature, but they're rolling. And by the way, it helps when you hit on Tyreek Woolen in the 5th round as a cornerback, and then of course you hit on Witherspoon, that cornerback from was it Illinois? I mean, he just is a dog out there, dude. I mean, that guy, he gets in there. I hope he doesn't get injured because he plays so viciously, but he's an absolute game changer.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk the most disappointing team or result for you this season.
Giants.
Yeah.
The Giants, man. I was not necessarily high on the Giants, but they went to the playoffs last year. Didn't they win a playoff game last year?
They beat the Vikings in the wild card round. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, again, I wasn't expecting them to be a Super Bowl contender, but this is shocking. Daniel Jones, I thought, was finally starting to progress. I thought, all right, Brian Daboll, he is the quarterback whisperer. Well, you still got to have some talent, apparently, because maybe it's not all Daniel Jones. The offensive line, as we talked about, is just absolutely atrocious. It's a bad combination. They don't really have any great wide receivers. Saquon's been injured. Their defense has been a sieve. Man, it's just been an absolute dumpster fire for the Giants.
For me, it's a team that doesn't even have a bad record, but it's the Jaguars, who are 3-2, I think. But they're extremely lucky, in my opinion, to be 3-2 because they have statistically not been a good team whatsoever. And this is a team that I thought could have been a potential Super Bowl contender this year. And I haven't been impressed with them whatsoever. 26th in net yards per play, worse than the Bears, who are 25th, just barely above the Commanders in 27th. If you look at advanced numbers like EPA per play on offense, they're 21st. Opponent EPA per play, they're 11th, so a little bit better defensively, and their defense is kind of why they're 3-2. But specifically offensively, I expected a lot from Trevor Lawrence. I thought it'd be an MVP candidate. And yeah, they're winning games, and I guess at the end of the day, that's what matters. But I thought they were locked to win the AFC South, and I don't think they're locked to win the AFC South anymore. I still expect them to win it. But the Colts and maybe even the Texans could give them a little bit of a run for their money. So despite being 3-2, I have been disappointed by the Jaguars so far this season, specifically the Jaguars offense.
Yeah, dude, I could not agree with you anymore. That's a really good, astute take.
All right, look at us. Wow, agreeing. All right, let's finish off the show with our preview for week 6. I wrote down I would say 5-ish biggest games of the week. There's not any huge matchups this week, really. And we will talk Thursday Night Football just because I want to hear your take about the Chiefs here, because to me, this is one of the most obvious bets I'll ever place in my life. Broncos Chiefs this Thursday night. Chiefs are 10.5-point favorites at home. I feel like the Chiefs should be 20-point favorites.
You would think that. This is also an AFC West divisional game. The Broncos last year supposed to get just destroyed by Kansas City, and they played them close. I find this really interesting because the Broncos suck. I mean, they suck. And you look at Kansas City, it looks like they are starting to get right. I wonder if some of the Mike McDaniel stuff obviously Robert Saleh, Nathaniel Hackett. When Sean Payton said those comments this offseason, it wasn't just a shot at Nathaniel Hackett and that coaching job. He broke the circle of trust of a lot of coaches. You know, you don't see coaches take shots at other coaches like that. It's a fraternity of sorts, right? You always say, like Andy Reid says, we're looking forward to the challenge of playing so-and-so. They're a well-coached team, no matter who is the head coach. You say that. I wonder if Andy Reid and some of the other coaches around the NFL took a little offense to what Sean Payton said. He said, you know what? Let's try and teach him a lesson. Let's pour it on him a little bit. Instead of taking the foot off the gas, maybe we score that last touchdown. Maybe we go up and win by 23 instead of letting them only win by 14 or win by 10. I wonder if there's something to that, because if that's the case, then I'm with you, Ian. The only thing is the Chiefs don't really blow teams out, and even though the Broncos have not beaten Kansas City since 2015, since the Royals won the World Series, that's the last time the Broncos beat Kansas City, and they play twice a year. I think the Chiefs win, but I probably wouldn't touch 10.5.
Let me read this a couple stats here for you. The Denver Broncos are allowing opposing teams to complete 77.27% of passes against them. They're also giving up 8.5 yards per pass attempt. Those are both by far the worst marks in the NFL. Specifically, they're giving up half a yard more per throw than the next worst team. So you're telling me the team that's dead last in opponent completion percentage and opponent yards per pass attempt now has to go up against the best player in the NFL and Patrick Mahomes, the best quarterback, the reigning MVP? I don't care even if Travis Kelce doesn't play. I could be playing receiver for the Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes is going to throw 500 yards in this game. I don't see how he does it.
It's funny. If you poll Chiefs fans, I think Chiefs fans would take the points, the 10.5 for the Broncos. I think if you polled Broncos fans, they would take the 10.5 for the Chiefs. Like, I think you're going to see a little bit of a split here because we have seen so many close games over the years with the Chiefs and the Broncos when the games, quite frankly, should not have been close at all.
The Broncos defense is just historically bad. And now
Correct.
They have to take on Patrick Mahomes. I could not bet on the Broncos. This could be a 20-point spread. I bet on the Chiefs. All right, let's talk 49ers Browns, which is an interesting game. We talked about the 49ers earlier being the most dominant team in the NFL, now the Super Bowl favorites. Now head to Cleveland coming off a bye week. The Browns are only 5-point underdogs at home, over under 39. Any thoughts on this game?
Yeah, give me the 49ers until they prove me otherwise. That's why I looked this game up. I go, let me think this one through. What's the smallest margin of victory the Niners have had? It was 7, and as Niner Noise pointed out early, that was a backdoor 7. It wasn't even a legit 7.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, I like the Niners to cover this.
I'm going to go with the Browns actually in this one because their defense, by every metric you look at, has been the best defense in the NFL. Now they're coming off a bye week, so they've only played 4 games, so a small sample size. But on the road against the best defense in the NFL is a tricky spot for any team. Now we don't know if Deshaun Watson's going to be back for the Browns. I don't believe so. That could make things a little bit sketchy. But this game does make me a little bit nervous for the 49ers. This is a very tough defense, and it's never easy to win and win with margin against a defense as good as the Browns. Colts Jaguars, who I believe the winner of this game will have sole possession of the AFC South. Jaguars 4-point home favorites, over under 46.5.
If Anthony Richardson was playing, this would make things different. I understand it's Gardner Minshew, and I've talked about he's a great backup quarterback, the revenge game, right? Going back to Jacksonville. I think Jacksonville gets it done, though. Although I will say a little underrated storyline here is they've been in London for like a month. They've been there like 3 weeks. I wonder how much that coming back is actually going to affect them. I know we always talk about going to London and the time change and just all the travel can affect players. But coming back, it's still a similar situation here. A lot of time change. Yeah, you're coming back home. That's a long travel day, long travel time. This is interesting to me. I'd probably take Jacksonville, but I'm not confident with it.
As the sun comes up behind a cloud, and now it looks like the sun's exploding in New York on my screen here. I'm going to take the Colts in this one. As I talked about the Jaguars, I've been disappointed with them. Their numbers don't match up with the record. I think the Colts at the very least can keep this close. Dude, you can barely see me. It's so bright in this room right now.
That's nuts, man. Congratulations on the sun.
Yeah. Lions Buccaneers. Sneaky good game here. Buccaneers 3-point home underdogs.
Oh, man. There are a lot of games this week I'm not going to touch. This is one of them. I think the Lions are the much better team, but as I said earlier, I think the Bucs still hold on and win their division. The Bucs have impressed me. The Lions have impressed me. I don't know what to do here. I think I'm taking the Lions, but I don't like it.
I'm going to take the Lions. The Buccaneers, you know what? The issue with the Buccaneers is that if they want to keep winning games, they have to rely on Baker Mayfield because they have the worst running game in the NFL, dead last in yards per carry. So I like Baker Mayfield, but I like him a lot more when he has a run game that he can lean on, and he does not have a run game to lean on. And I think that's eventually going to come back and bite this Buccaneers team. And not to mention, the Lions defense significantly improved from last year. Top 10 in most pass defense stats as well. So I think they can slow down Baker Mayfield. I think the Lions get the win in that one. And I'm not high on the Buccaneers. I think teams can win games like the Buccaneers did the past 2 years without a run game when Tom Brady's your quarterback. Can you keep winning games with no run game with Baker Mayfield as your quarterback? I don't think so. And then Monday Night Football, Cowboys-Chargers. Can the Cowboys bounce back from the embarrassing loss to the 49ers?
They can, but it's not this week.
Yes.
I have the Chargers in this one. I feel like Justin Herbert's just going to dice this Dallas secondary up. I think they're just going to dice him up. Keenan Allen and Herbert have had a nice connection all season long. The Chargers need to do something to get right? They're sitting here at 2-2, coming off of a bye. They need this game. The AFC is going to start slipping away if they don't start piling up some wins. What better way than to go up against your NFC? I think the Vikings, Cowboys, and Chargers are all like the exact same team. So since they're all very similar, give me the home version of said team.
Yeah, I like it. Obviously, I think the Cowboys are going to miss the playoffs, so they got to lose this game. So I'll take the points with the Chargers at home. Which brings us to the final topic here. We're going to give out some actual picks this week. Obviously, I wasn't on the show last week, so I was absent from having official week 5 picks on the show. But my record from week 1 to week 4 was 9-3. I went 2-1 in my last appearance in week 4. Sterling, I understand you did not give out picks, except you only gave out an upset pick last week. And I understand that the upset you gave out was the Texans over my beloved Falcons, which was kind of rude for you to do the show that I'm not there. Your only pick was against my Falcons.
It looked so good, too, the entire time. I will say, I hit a couple other upset ones. I had the Colts. I just didn't give that one for some reason. And I had New Orleans, which for some reason I didn't give that one. But I won those two in a parlay. Felt pretty good.
Well, for the sake of the show, you are 4-9. So if you can look in the future and try to figure out what bets you're going to place on Sunday morning, if you can look into the future and figure out those bets now, then that would be much appreciated. So,
yeah, what I say now, just fade me. I'm the fade god, baby. Right. You'd make so much money off me this year if you faded all of my picks.
Early in the week. But then you come up with good picks Sunday morning.
I come up on Sunday morning when I actually go through. Yeah.
All right, so let's get to it. Best spread bet of the week. I'm going to go with the Vikings over the Bears. I know the Vikings won't have Justin Jefferson. I don't think it matters. They're 2.5-point favorites against the Bears. The Bears do not let the Thursday night football game for the Bears or win over the Commanders fool you into thinking that this is actually a good football team. The Bears still stink. Justin Fields still stinks, and the Vikings still the most underrated team in the NFL because they keep losing games they deserve to win. Still 6th in the NFL in net yards per play, 1 spot below the Chiefs, 1 spot above the Cleveland Browns. So I still have faith in the Vikings. I think they win and cover against the Bears on Sunday.
I actually like that one a lot, but since you took it, I'm going to go a different way. Although I don't know if that makes you nervous since I took that one on a Tuesday and not a Sunday. Maybe you should be a little nervous. But I'm going Niners 5-point favorites over the Browns. I talked about it earlier. Again, their smallest margin of victory has been 7 points, and that was a little backdoor 7. I still don't know if Deshaun Watson is playing or not in this one. That might change my decision here just a little bit, but does that really make that much of a difference? I like the Niners to cover the 5.
Interesting. All right, I'm on the opposite side for that one, but I'm not making the Browns my upset pick of the week, that's for sure. Let's talk favorite total bet of the week. I am going with an under in the Patriots Raiders, under 41.5. I don't think any game involving the Patriots should have a total in the 40s. So I'm going to keep betting unders in Patriots games until they get back to the 30s. The worst offense in the NFL by some metrics, while their defense is still a top 10 unit. And if they keep doing what they did last week, which is just not score any points whatsoever, then it's going to be very easy for unders to keep hitting. So I think the Patriots are exactly what you want in an under team, which is bad offense, good defense, bad third down offense, good third down defense. So I'm going to keep betting the under for the Patriots. Also, under has been hitting a lot in Raiders games recently as well. They've been sneakily good under teams. So I'm going to go under 41.5 between the Patriots and Raiders.
Yeah, Mac Jones has been a disgrace to the game of football in the NFL, at least. I mean, great in college, don't get me wrong, but dude has been buns this year.
Yep.
Yeah, I can't get over just how bad he's been. Cards, Rams. I have the under 48.5 in this one. I know these teams have scored a decent amount of points. Obviously, I've talked about how I like the Rams offense, but I still like the under 40.5. Just seems a little too steep. The Cardinals have come back to earth just a little bit, right? I know we've talked about how fun they've been. They've been in games. They've been close in games. They're still, 1-4? I mean, let's not get it twisted. They're not a good team. I like the under 40.5 in this one.
Upset of the week, which has been actually your biggest strength outside of last week when you picked the Texans over my Falcons. You've generally been pretty good with the upsets this season, which has been my weakest part is picking upsets. So I'll go first. I'm going to take the Seahawks over the Bengals. Bengals, I talked about earlier, they have 2 wins, but they're still 31st in net yards per play. They did take a bit of a step forward this past week. I will recognize that, but it was against the Cardinals. Almost every single metric you look at, the Seahawks outrank the Bengals by a mile. I think the wrong team is favored in this game. I'd make this game Seahawks a 1-point favorite. Instead, they're 2.5-point underdogs. So naturally, I love this game. I'll take the Seahawks to upset the Bengals in Cincinnati.
Patriots, even though I just bleeped on Mac Jones, that offense, Patriots over the Raiders. Devontae Adams' shoulder, I don't know if that's what kept him down. I don't know if it was a case where the Packers just were not going to let him be the guy to beat them. Things are not going well in Vegas right now. Like, it's not, I get they won. They put up 17 points. Their defense has been fairly impressive, but also it's like, okay, Jordan Love could not see the defenders last night. He kept throwing directly to you guys. Marcus Peters actually had a pretty nice game for the most part, but he's playing a little soft in coverage. As much as I don't like Mac Jones, Bill Belichick will find a way to run the ball 47 times in this game, and the Patriots are going to win, I don't know, 10-7, 10-3. It's going to be ugly. I'm with you on the under, but I like the Patriots as the upset in this game.
I actually don't hate that pick. Like I said earlier, I'm on the under for that game, but if I were to pick a side, I think I'd go Patriots. So, I don't hate that pick whatsoever. And then finally, Survivor, which I was eliminated in week 3 when I took the Cowboys over the Cardinals. I don't know why I did that. That was stupid. You are still alive. Week 4, you took the 49ers. Last week, you took the Lions over the Panthers. So you are still alive, Sterling, heading into week 6. The teams you cannot choose are the Commanders, the Bills, the Dolphins, the 49ers, and the Lions. What team are you choosing for week 6?
I'm doing the Rams. I'm picking the Rams. I
love that pick. If I was still alive in Survivor pools, I'd take the Rams.
Again, I don't have a lot of good options left. I've picked a lot of really good teams already, but I also picked the Commanders week 1, right? I tried picking a team that I knew I wasn't going to choose. The Rams are a team I don't think I'm going to use later on this year. So give me the Rams in this game. I like how Ian's out here just messing with some lighting. It's impressive.
Yeah, I fixed it. We're good now, even with the sun out. I look like a normal person now. No, I like the Rams quite a bit. If I was still alive in my Survivor pools, I would be picking the Rams as well. I had 3 entries, like an actual Survivor pools that I had to buy in on. They were eliminated week 1, week 2, and week 3. And then this one, this one I was week 3 as well.
So what did I win in this? Did I win
We agreed on something. I forget what it was. Was it just a 6-pack of beer, or was it like a steak or something? Or the steak bet was on the Falcons.
Steak bet was on the Falcons to not make the playoffs, Ian.
Win a playoff.
I have it right here. Win the playoffs. I keep my season-long bets right here. I have no idea what we bet for Survivor, but I'll take anything you're offering. New golf clubs, golf balls.
All right. I'll get you a pack of golf balls.
If you see that whiskey over my shoulder, I'm always down for some whiskey or bourbon.
Actually, I think that's what we agreed on. I think it was a bottle of whiskey or a bottle of bourbon. All right.
I won't say no, Ian. I won't say no. Give me something Canadian.
Here, actually, how about this? The longer you survive in Survivor, the better the gift I will give you.
Oh, wow. I like this. So if I win this week, I've doubled you.
If you go the entire season, I will buy you a new driver or something, like an expensive golf club.
I'm all in. You know I'm an idiot. You've seen my bets so far. They've not been great.
Well, you're crushing it in Survivor, better than me.
There we go.
And I like the Rams pick this week too.
There we go.
There you go. That is our show. Thank you all for watching. If you're listening to the audio version of this podcast, rate and review it. If you're watching this on YouTube, subscribe to the channel. Give the video a like. Go ahead and watch the Ryan Fitzpatrick interview if you haven't already. Any closing remarks here, Sterling?
Mizzou let me down this past week. I went to that game, dude. I went there. I was stoked. They're up 22-7 against LSU. Place is rocking. And what happened? Oh, yeah, they realized they're Mizzou, and we can't have nice things. But it's okay, though. It's okay. Still a fun time. Great day. Went to my favorite little spot. If anyone is a Mizzou fan here, Booch's Burgers. You better believe I hit it up.
There you go. I don't have a college team, so I have no comment about any college teams. I wish Mizzou well, though.
Thank you. You can join us in the year of misery.
All right. I love it. All right. Thank you all so much for watching. If you do bet this week, be sure to sign up at DraftKings Sportsbook using the code STB. You get $200 in bonus bets and some free same game parlays. Thank you all so much for watching. We will talk to you all next week.